The Inland Rail project doubles in cost to $31 billion. The Reserve Bank fears for the homeowners in mortgage prison, and why ChatGPT could mean we'll all work less. It's Friday, the 7th of April, 2023. Welcome to Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, of course, today is Good Friday. It is a public holiday around the country. This morning's show is a bit of a shortened edition, but we are still here. We are, I suppose you'd call us dedicated. But we have a great interview as well coming up after the show. It is with Marcus Marchant, who is the CEO of Vistaprint Australia and New Zealand. I really enjoyed this one.
Yes. Vistaprint to me, they made business cards. And one of my first questions to Marcus was, does anyone use business cards? It's amazing how many people still use business cards.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. It is still big business. We talked about that. We talked about running a business. We talked a lot about small business because obviously Vistaprint has a lot to do with small business, how they've changed, how products have changed. Just really fascinating insight into Vistaprint, but kind of into the small business market, really.
Yeah, it is a really worthwhile chat and definitely worth sticking around for. The main story this morning, though, Sean, how about this? The federal government's review of the Inland Rail line shows that the budget has doubled to almost $31 billion in just 2 years since the announcement of the project.
Yeah. So Kerry Schott, author of the review, said costs could be even higher because many factors were uncertain. A big part of the cost blowout so far has been the handling of environmental approvals, which has contributed to a blowout in the scope of the project. Schott was also critical of National Party proponents of the project. Remember, it was Barnaby Joyce and friends that pushed this hard for underestimating the complexity involved in adding and upgrading 1,700 kilometres of rail tracks through Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. Also, Michael, the project hasn't had a CEO for 18 months. Pretty amazing it's got as far as it has. Infrastructure Minister Catherine King, after the report was released, called it shocking. And, of course, she blamed the previous government. The Albanese government won't dump the Inland Rail project, though, despite its poor cost benefit. King said the project would stay alive as it will eventually allow Australia to shift from refrigerated trucks off the road and onto a more carbon-friendly transport freight mode. Let's hope so. Long way to go, though.
Got an idea on how they could cut the cost of that project pretty much in half, Sean. Monorail.
I'm moving on. I feel like I'm in a Simpsons episode. Keep going.
All right. How did the local market perform yesterday?
The S&P ASX 200 finished the day down 0.3% to 7,119 points. Technology stocks led the bourse lower yesterday. Real estate and consumer discretionary stocks also suffered. Healthcare stocks were the outperformers. Plenty of red ink among the large caps, Michael. I know you love the term red ink.
I do. It's just such a visceral image. I love it. I mean, I shouldn't love it because it's not necessarily a good thing, but no, it really speaks to me, Sean.
It does. Michael, in fact, 9 of the top 10 stocks on the bourse were speaking to you yesterday because they went backwards. Mind you, 8 of the 9 didn't go backwards by very much. Woodside fell by more than 1%. But otherwise, they're just sort of small, I suppose, a dull red rather than a bright red ink or something like that, Michael.
So we're now measuring it in the shade of red, is it?
Yeah, totally. The exception was CSL. It actually rose. It jumped more than 2%. The retailers and Newcrest Mining outperformed while the banks and big miners went backwards.
And what's happening on international markets?
A little bit of good news on the oil front, given we're all driving around this weekend over Easter. Crude futures dropped over the past 24 hours. Petrol prices are still around that $2 a litre though. Ouch. Gold is trading well above $2,000 an ounce, and the Aussie dollar right now is fetching around 67 US cents.
You know what I found tremendously satisfying yesterday, Sean?
What was that?
Went to fill up the car ahead of a bit of Easter driving, and diesel got it for $1.87, whereas petrol was $2 or so. And while
well done,
I feel sorry for anyone filling up with petrol, it just feels like kind of order has returned to the universe now.
Because it's been a long, long time since you've been able to boast about paying less for diesel over unleaded petrol.
Oh, I know, and it's a good feeling. Shouldn't say that again. And in consideration for anyone who has just paid $2 for petrol, but goodness me, I love getting $1.87 for diesel. Sean, we'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, the Reserve Bank has warned that global financial stability risks have increased, but it is confident that the local financial system remains strong and well placed to support economic activity.
The central bank released its half-yearly financial stability review yesterday. It also said higher interest rates and inflation are putting pressure on household budgets, and financial stress is increasing among some households, but most remain resilient. Now, thanks to the strong labour market and a sizable savings buffer, people are doing okay. However, the Reserve did note that this resilience was unevenly spread and there's financial stress in the economy. On the global banking system, the Reserve Bank said the failure of 3 regional banks in the US is the most serious stress for the US banking system since the global financial crisis back in 2007, 2008. But the failures occurred because of weakness in business models and poor risk management practices. The broader system is in pretty good shape.
Sean, it also talked about homeowners being in mortgage prison. Now, we're talking about kind of evocative language. How's that? Mortgage prison?
Yeah, from a central bank. That's really evocative. About 16% of households with a home loan are in mortgage prison, unable to refinance to a lower rate because they don't meet tough serviceability assessment rules. That's according to the Reserve Bank. It also released new analysis showing that almost half of the nation's poorest borrowers could be in mortgage stress because of higher interest rates. Rising interest rates means an increasing number of existing borrowers can't pass a bank serviceability assessment, which tests a person's ability to cope with the 3 percentage point increase in rates. It means hundreds of thousands of households are stuck with their existing lender and unable to directly reap the benefits of strong competition in the refinancing market, with banks offering discounted interest rates, $4,000 cashback, etc. But the hardest hit can't access them.
And staying in the world of economics, Sean, the local trade surplus was $14 billion in February, mostly due to a fall in imports.
Yeah, so a trade surplus of $14 billion is normally cause for a celebration because it adds to economic growth, and net trade probably will add to economic growth this current quarter, for the March quarter, that is. But economists yesterday warned against reading too much into it because the February result was driven by a 10% drop in imports to a 10-month low, with some of that reflecting lower outbound tourism. Exports were also down. In fact, they were off about 3% on a decline in iron ore shipments. So the top line number looks great, not so good when you look beneath the surface.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese heads off for a week's holiday this weekend. It's his first break since taking the job, and he's saying that he's still optimistic about the Voice referendum succeeding.
That's despite the Liberal Party joining its coalition partner, the Nationals, and opposing the yes vote. The Prime Minister said the referendum was about coming to terms with the fullness and richness of our history and expressing pride in Australia's Indigenous history. He said opposition leader Peter Dutton's position is divisive and opportunistic. He said the Liberals have no goodwill towards the Voice. Now, Albanese applauded various coalition members, such as Tasmanian Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe, who support the Voice. Dutton himself is fighting something of a revolt within his own party about his decision. Former federal Western Australian Liberal member Ken Wyatt yesterday quit the party. Some of the more moderates in the backbench are also making noises, not so much to quit the party, but certainly disagreeing with their party leader.
How about this one, Sean? Brookfield, the company behind an $18.7 billion takeover offer for Origin Energy, has sealed its first renewable power project in Australia as part of a plan to install 14 gigawatts of new generation over the next decade. I love saying that. Gigawatts.
Gigawatts. Yeah.
I feel like I'm in Back to the Future, when with Doc, and he's like, I need more gigawatts. Anyway, please go on.
You've thrown me totally. Brookfield's renewable arm, which is called Brookfield Renewable.
Creative.
Yeah, very creative. It's partnered with Australian developer Greenleaf Renewables. Another creative name there, Greenleaf Renewables. So we've got Brookfield Renewables and Greenleaf Renewables partnering to develop, build, own and operate the proposed Moonlight Range Wind Farm. Another great name, really. Moonlight Range Wind Farm.
I like that. It sounds like somewhere where like a romance novel should be set.
Yeah, Brookfield meeting Greenleaf
Greenleaf.
to develop Moonlight. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
We need some kind of kinky music now, Sean.
Well, romantic music, I was going to say.
Yes, some erotic tunes. Please go on.
Oh, yeah, I will. According to a report in the Australian, the 400 megawatt Moonlight Range wind farm is currently in the development phase and primed to start construction in 2025. It marks the first generation pledge made as part of the Canadian Giants takeover bid for Origin Energy. Now, remember that deal it took them 4 offers to actually get the deal across the line. And it includes a plan for Brookfield to invest an extra $20 billion in Origin through to 2030 to build up to 14, say the word.
Gigawatts.
14 gigawatts of new renewable generation and storage facilities in Australia.
Sean, one last one before we get on to some international news. Australian police have helped crack an online criminal marketplace where the data of thousands of Australians was being traded on the black market.
A coalition of law enforcement agencies around the world, including in the United States, the United Kingdom, Netherlands and Australia, shut down the cybercrime website Genesis Market on Tuesday, executing 120 arrests and over 200 searches, according to a report on AAP. The invite-only marketplace is, or at least was, used by criminals to buy and sell sensitive data such as login credentials, browsing history, and autofill form data for as little as $1 Australian. Now, at the time it was taken down, the website offered access to more than 1.5 million compromised computers, each containing the information of dozens of accounts.
All right, international news, Sean, and how about this? The ChatGPT revolution opens the door to a 4-day week by providing a big productivity boost for swathes of jobs. This is according to a Nobel Prize-winning Labour economist.
Do you reckon swathes? It's not quite gigawatts.
It's not quite gigawatts, and it's not quite the erotic situation happening on Moonlight Range wind farm, but it's still nice to say.
It is still nice to say. Anyway, Christopher Pissarides, a professor at the London School of Economics who specialises in the impact of automation on work, said the labour market could adapt quickly enough to artificial intelligence-backed chatbots, and that means we might be able to work less and still achieve the same output, according to Bloomberg. Chatbots such as OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Bard have been hailed as a potentially transformative technology that could cause a productivity boom, but also expose hundreds of millions of white-collar jobs. Some people saying almost 300 million white-collar jobs could go. Dr. Pissarides said the technology could still take a malevolent turn, such as being used for surveillance or invading privacy, but he said it will make a big difference to productivity if it's used well.
Goodness me, a 4-day working week. You know what, Sean? This has got weekend edition written all over it. I reckon our colleague Adam Lang will love this story.
Yes, I think it will. 4-day working week. So Adam himself, not that I would like to disparage the judge, I think he's doing his best to work a 4-day week.
Well,
fitting in his 40 or 50 hours in the 4 days. Sorry, not talking about productivity here. Very productive man on a spreadsheet, that one.
I'm glad you clarified that one there, Sean. But you know what? I'm going to raise this tomorrow. I will bring it up in one of my categories, and we'll see how I go. It has Adam Lang and Weekend Edition written all over it. And as we know, the Weekend Edition is a very, very competitive affair, and I reckon this could just give me the edge I've been looking for.
We'll see.
All right. Now, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Your guest today is Marcus Marchant, the CEO of Vistaprint, Australia and New Zealand.
Yes, we talk about Vistaprint, but we also talk about small business in Australia and what's happening in that sector. Fascinating chat.
Yes, coming up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 7th of April, 2023. I just nearly forgot the date there, Sean. Make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And do not forget that you can stay up to date on all the business news with Alexa and your Amazon Echo smart speaker. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode, and you can grab yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.